Yesterday, we explained that a literature review is a review of existing literature. It must not necessarily be one paper. It can be many, as much as possible. But the essence is not just to summarize it, is to analyze it. When you think of literature review, first thing that should come to your head in business terms is to think of SWOT analysis, right? Think of the strength, the weaknesses. Was he able to achieve the objectives? Does he align to your paper? Was the focus the same? It's just a deep analytical, critical review of the paper. And there are a lot of things to review, whether it's the view that the researchers have given in contribution to the body of knowledge is in line with what others have said. So comparing, contrasting, finding loopholes, finding strong points, all of these things are what make up a critical literature review. However, you cannot do a literature review without the papers, right? And that is why it's important we learn how to find our papers. So I would like us to listen attentively, because at the end, our assignment for today will be, I'll just give us a topic and we're going to find papers related to that topic and review them. So we're looking at sourcing papers. Like I've mentioned before, the strongest form of evidence, that's if we're talking of TIL, or you can call it source to use to support your idea, is mostly peer-reviewed papers. Now, what are peer-reviewed papers? Peer-reviewed papers are papers that were not, it's unlike textbooks that would just be written by someone and published, right? Peer-reviewed papers will not be published like that. They will be reviewed by other people. That's why it's called peer-reviewed. Peer review. So most times, it will be submitted to a journal, and the journal team will analyze the paper, see whether it matches the test, and passes all tests before it is being published. Meaning that before it is published, it will go through different eyes. So it's peer reviewed. And so that process of going through different stages and being tested by different people is what actually gives it that credibility compared to other sources. But other than literature review, peer-reviewed papers, textbooks, reports are also good sources. But the least I will always emphasize is websites. Don't use websites except there is no other way out. In fact, avoid websites, as anybody can write on a website. So it's not verifiable, it's not credible, right? So I'm going to show us today how to source papers. Please let me know if you can share my screen, if you can see my screen, sorry.
Yes, ma.
Okay, so for me, one very good place to find papers is called Google Scholar. Google Scholar. Yes, this very first one, Google Scholar. You can write it down. So Google Scholar is your go-to place any day, anytime you get peer-reviewed papers, and you can use. So when you click on Google Scholar, you come here, you click here, and then it takes you here. Now, when you want to, right, so just like it says, stand on the shoulders of giants, you get a lot of papers here. When you want to search for a paper, remember you must have done your analysis. Remember we talked about outlining, analyzing your paper, your brief, right? So by now, you should have done that. You should have an outline. You should know what exactly you are looking for, right? So remember the example we used about feral children, right? Do we recall that example when we're talking about brief analysis?
Yes, ma.
Okay, so we are going to do a search on feral children. Let's just start there. So you just type in what you want. Now, this is quite broad. If you want to say, if you want to specify, oh, now beautiful. Remember that nature and nurture debate we talked about, right? You could source it specifically, right? So you could type whatever you want, be as specific as possible. The more specific you are, the better you are at getting what you want. So I'm going to go for the nature and nurture debate, feral children nature. Now, you see, it gives you a range of sources, a range of papers. All of these things are papers. Look down here, you see 1, 2 as main. So after there are more pages and more pages and more pages. So you could keep searching as much as you want. So for every part of your outline, you just do the search, get the papers you want, and then you open it. Some of them you can download them, some of them you can read it. Like once you open it here, it will read. So when you see some that have PDF, it means it might download. You will not read it here. Some of them, once you click on it, it will just open. Now, there are about 23,100 papers that have been, related to this. You're not going to source all of these things. But one thing in research is relevance is important. You have to work with paper that is recent. 10 years ago, it may have been good, but now it's different. 50 years ago, there was no TikTok. So if you're doing a research on TikTok and you're using old papers, you might literally get little or nothing about it. Or even if somebody must have mentioned it, it will not be as realistic as now, right? So it's important to use the standard principle is 10 years. It should not be 10 years from the year that you're doing the research. So that 10 years is the period of relevance in research. It's a period that guarantees that your work is, good and all of that. So what you can do is to ensure that you, what they call this word, streamline it. You can do a limited search so that it brings out. You can either just do it by yourself, looking at the dates. You see, if you check here, you see the date. So 2009 is beyond 10 years. So I wouldn't take that. 2020, yes, sounds great. 2011 beyond. You can do this one after the other. But if you don't want to go through the steps of doing that, you can go to this setting. So you can decide which time you want to choose. So if you don't want any of these years, you can just select from 10 years from now was 2015, right? 2015 to 2025, right? And then you search. So you see it changes the papers and brings out only those that were recent, right? Are we with me?
Yes, ma.
Okay, so this is what it does for you. Now, apart from the dates, you can sort by any other thing. You can sort by relevance or whatever. Some of these things you're going to explore. Once you go, you explore by yourself, you see a lot of things. So you can change by time, by relevance, by the date it was published, by, there are a lot of things. But now let's open and see. So this is a PDF. It's going to download. So I don't want to do that. Let me go to this. But while you note this, I want you to bear in mind that the 10-year relevance is always important, but there are circumstances, there are exceptions where you don't need to go that far. For instance, if you're talking about a theory, someone has founded that theory, right? And even though the person said it 100 years ago, it's the person's theory. So there's no way you talk about that theory without mentioning that person. For instance, for most let's say the laws of any of the laws, maybe for science students or for art students, Karl Marx, anything, those particular models or theories, if you're talking about it, you must at least start by, saying who founded it, who talked about it first. That one is an exception to when you can go for old references, because most of these theories, they were formed back in 18 somethings, 19 somethings, but they're still relevant. People are just building on it. Well, so you have to really start by pointing that out before you build on it yourself. So back to this. So once you click on it, it's going to show you a lot of things. So this is the title of the book this is a book actually, right? So this is the title of the book, 17 publisher and all of that, abstracts, chapter. So I don't want us to go into it because I want us to use an article. So I'm going to go for this. Now you keep going for whatever you want. This. Okay, now, so this is the abstracts. This is not turning out as I expected. So most of the times, some of them are licensed. So there are some papers that you don't have access to. So if you're doing a free research, don't worry, just keep them. Find the ones that you can access. So some of them, you have to literally be in maybe a school that has access or something like that. Some papers are like that. So don't beat yourself about it. Just find the one that's accessible that you can. This is a PDF. It's going to download, but I'll just download it anyway. Because most time when you download it that way, you get access to good. I hope we can all see this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is it. So this is what the paper is. So there's an abstract. Remember when I was talking about a report, I said some articles are reports. So you see what it looks like. They always have the abstract. Then they have this person takes different forms, some observations, essay content. This one is writing different, but some you see introduction, literature review, methods. So it all depends on what the person's writing style is and the particular paper, particular publisher. So like I explained to us, most published journals have specific requirements you have to follow. So this is the particular standard for this. So, but that's how it is. So you can read and, make out the points from it. But if you want to gather point, the first thing to look at to know whether this paper is useful for you is the abstract. The abstract tells you what the paper is about. All of this is still based off on where we started. That's why we started from analyzing and understanding your brief. So you will know what is relevant to what you have outlined. If it's not related to what you have outlined, then it's not for you, right? And so that's the major determinant. So you read the abstract. If it's in line with what you're going for, fine. If it's not, then you let the paper be. The reason why you need to read this is because you won't have the time to read every single paper before you decide the papers you're using. So once you have a paper like this, right? You look at the abstracts, you'll see some of the things that are important to you. You look at maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. As you look at each paper, you should do something alongside, and that is called your literature review matrix. The reason is, if you just look at it and say, I'll come back and select, you will miss a lot of things. You're going to give yourself double work. So I'm going to show us how to do something right now. Okay, so a literature review matrix is expected to show you what is relevant for that paper, right? So this is how it works. There are some major key components of a literature review matrix. So you have let me just add the table first. So you insert a table. The reason why you put a table, it just makes it easier for you. So let me just work with this, right? So the title of it is a literature review matrix. So what you have here is name of authors, or you can just put authors. Now, this is more like you see this document is like the best thing you can have if you're doing a research, especially a research that involves a lot of papers. So you don't get the papers mixed up, because one thing is certain, as you look at more papers, confusion starts setting in. You've forgotten what the other one said and who said which one and who said the other one. So this is to keep tabs and ensure you're accountable. And at the end of the day, when you're doing your analysis, the literature review, when you want to be critical, you don't have to go and be reading them again. You just, come here and see the lines and the connections and the discrepancies. I hope I'm making sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so we have the authors, we have the year of publication, right? We have, for some people, they would like to say the method, that the way they call it, but that's not always very important. You could also check main idea, conclusion, whatever works for you. This is just an idea. It must not be what you take. It depends on what you're looking for, right? Right? So now let's go and do this for some of the papers that we have. So let's see how that works. Okay, so we'll go back to here. So if you want to do that for this paper, how do we go? So for the authors, who can identify the author here? Anyone hear me, please?
Yes, ma.
Okay.
Use their name, sir.
Yes.
Doctor.
Okay, it's fine. Don't worry. This is the author. It's just one person. Sometimes, in most cases, you have many more. They can be 3, they can be 4, but it's all up to you, right? So once you have that, you take the author's name. Right? Oh, and it's important to also add maybe a roll or a serial number, maybe when you're done, just to know, because some papers you say, if it's a systematic literature review, you have to show that, oh, the number of papers were reviewed, about 50 papers. At the end of the day, only these were relevant, things like that. That's when the type of the paper itself is owned as a systematic literature review, not more like a report or an essay, right? So then the year of publication. The year of publication is when? So this is where we see the year of publication, 2020. 2020. Now you'll be asking yourself, why do I need to take the year of publication? It also has literature review, so that you'll not be comparing an article that was written back before now and, maybe an article that was written in 2015 and an article written last year. So when there are different views, you could say analytically, it's a possibility that this other perspective is as a result of the change in this, that's over the years. I don't know if you understand it, because sometimes you can understand why there is a change in another perspective. Remember, most important thing in the research is the researcher's voice. So this is where the researcher's voice will come in analysis. Even though this perspective is this way, a later research has shown that, that's why you have to capture all of this. Then for the method, okay, so for the method, most times there is always methodology, but then this particular journal did not provide for that. So we'll have to look out through. Sometimes they'll write it out clearly. Some other times they would not. So as a researcher, you have to identify what kind of paper it is first, and then decide, you find out what kind of method was used. Method is more like how the research was conducted. Methodology. And I didn't explain that. It's how the research was conducted. If it's an essay, how was the the work done? Was it desk research? It was a report. How did the report go? How was data collected? Those kind of things. That's what the method is about. So usually if it's a literature review, it should be more of systematic literature review. That's a methodology. And that just means that a lot of papers were looked at and compared and all of that. So this is not looking like what had, it's not an original paper. No data was collected. So it's not an original data. That data was collected and analyzed, right? So it's a literature review. I don't know if you understand where I'm going to, or where the points I'm making.
Yes, ma'am.
Juliet Chiamaka, please let me know your view.
No, ma, this your last explanation. He said there's no particular how did you even put it? I forgot.
Okay, so I said
The
the article,
methodology
because
that
of the journal where it was published, does not have a specific area designated as methods. Usually, I'm sure we are going to see more. We're going to check a few more. It should have some papers, most papers have maybe 3.0 methodology or methods. We should explain how the research was done. Now, I was trying to explain what methodology or methods mean. It means, how did the researcher come about this? Was it a field research? Did the researcher go to the field to collect data, to analyze the data? Or did the researcher just gather papers written by others to analyze? That's more like what the methods is about. So for this paper, I said there is no chapter designated to methods. And if you look through, you will not see any place indicating that data was collected or there was any form of analysis. If there was analysis, you might see more kind of tables or teams, depending on the kind. But there's nothing like that. It's just papers talked about, explain and all of that. So that's why it's a literature review. It's a literature review paper. That's how we came about the method. But now, if you're writing and you're not too sure, you could just say the paper, though not specific, had the ingredients of your voice. Just do what you like, but then just be right? So that's how it is. So that takes us to the next ingredient there, which is the main idea. So how do you know what the main idea is? There was somewhere I told us is very important, which is our abstract. The abstract is very important, right? So the abstract says the origin of language. Remember, the topic is feral children. Feral children, just like I explained, that they are children that, because they were not raised up in love, care, and all of the social requirements that parents give to their children. Some of them grow without parental care and love and all of that. And so they are wild. And so the topic is feral children and the origin of language debate in the 18th century. Now, the abstract says the origin of language belongs to the most. In fact, before I go into the abstract, the topic gives you an idea of what the paper is talking about, right? The topic says feral children and the origin of language debate. So if you look at it, you see that what they are talking about is the origin of the language debate, right? So the main idea will be related to that. It says the origin of language belongs to the most controversial topics of linguistic and philosophical discussion in the 18th century. Due to its epistemological and anthropological implications, it was hotly debated, especially with reference to writings of Condillac and Rousseau. With the framework of hypothetical explanations for the origin of language, scholars frequently refer to the case of feral children, which are considered to serve as an appropriate model for the very moment of the genesis of language. Given the firm belief that 18th century scholars that ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, feral children provided a model for the reconstruction of the scanty origins of language. Since that time, feral children have been considered as objects of curiosity, right? So this shows that they are looking at the origin of the language debate for children. So considering most of the debate, and imagine 2 key debates mentioned out here. Can we hear me, please?
Yes, ma, but it's
No,
breaking.
ma.
It's
Yeah, your
break.
voice is breaking.
Oh, even now?
No, ma, it's clear now.
Okay. Okay, so what did we hear last? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, man, the last sentence of what you read, the abstract, that's the last thing I heard.
Okay, yes.
I
So I'm
will
saying,
consider.
yes, thank you. From this abstract, you can see that the key theme is all about they are tracing the history of the origin of the language debate, and trying to see what it is now. And key part of the debate is the writing of Condillac and Rousseau. So you note this first, right? You copy it. And then you go to the conclusion and find out what they conclude. That's what you know the main idea. Now, the reason I read out the abstract to be because it helps you to understand what exactly is this person out for. Some abstracts to tell you their conclusion at the beginning. This one did not. So you have to go find for yourself. So you go to the conclusion and see what the person says. So the conclusion is, it is plain from these examples that in 18th century discussions on the origins of language, feral children played a decisive role to reflect the crucial importance of society for the acquisition of language. Being socially deprived creatures, they represented a quite reliable model for the reconstruction of the genesis of language, a state of poverty and deprivation. Right. Given the firm belief of the 18th century scholars that ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, feral children provide the model for the reconstruction of the scanty origins of language. Since the 18th century, feral children have been considered as objects of curiosity, contributed to many. Okay, so practically, they stated that earlier. So the point is that what they're saying now is, the main idea is that feral children have provided the fact that language is not just learned, is the state of poverty and deprivation determine the language of children. So you write this in your own words based on the initial model. So for me, if I was to write this, I would say the paper considers the origin of, what's that again? The origin of language, yeah, the role of children, right? The paper considers the role of feral children in the origin of language and shows with examples how poverty and deprivation can change models and definitions of language, right? Now, you could say this is summary. Because if some people have, I think it's better to have summary here first. So you know what the summary, then you have main idea. Main idea. So the main idea from what I gathered there, though I didn't read the main paper, is that poverty. Okay, there is something I missed out. The views that were initially considered, the debates. There was a debate by I don't know if you remember the name. Let me see. Yeah, Codillac and Russell's debate, right? Of origin of language. Right? Has changed due to the contribution of feral children from poverty and deprivation. Oh, God, what am I writing? Okay. So do we understand this? So then you can also have a conclusion if you want, but the conclusion is almost similar with what I have here, right? Are we together?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask us to take turns. Can you hear me? Oh, my internet is unstable. What's happening? Can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do we understand what I did in this table? Do we understand what I did and how I came about this?
The summary and the main idea, I'm a bit confused how you came about it.
For the summary, once you look through the abstract, the conclusion, or you see the summary is what's this paper talking about? So you just summarize it in your own words. What's it talking about? Then the main idea, what is the main thing that the author is insisting on? You put it down, then you have a conclusion. It all depends on when you look at the paper, just skim and scan through it. You have an idea of what it's talking about. That's what you write. So this is just my own idea of my perspective of understanding of what the paper is talking about. Yours might be something else, but it's always, the summary will be almost the same thing, but in different words. So the main idea, you see, it always stands out because you see the emphasis throughout the papers. I don't know if maybe if you do more, you will take note of it. Alvina, what about you? Chiamaka, is Gloria still here? Please let me know what your thoughts
Yes,
are.
ma'am. I'm on the same page with Juliet. But we can
Yeah.
just continue. I think we'll get it as we go along.
Okay, I'll do one more. And then
Yeah.
I'll do one more. And then we'll do the rest. Okay. So let's pick another paper. Which paper do we want to pick? Let's pick another paper. Literature, peer-reviewed literature, sorry. One that is a journal or something. Do we look at this one? Nature versus nurture.
Yeah, I think it looks shorter a bit.
So you think shorter. Okay.
Learners, yes.
Yeah. Don't believe them, or sometimes it's not look as easy as this is one. They won't let me do it now with cookies. Okay, so now the first thing we are looking at the name of the authors, right? The name of the authors, look at it here. These are the names of the authors. Okay. So you can copy that. Are we together?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It might be in bullet point. You arrange it by yourself, but I'm not going to go into arrangements now because I want us to focus on, the main idea. But arrangement is not important as far as you have it here. This is just to help you. The year of publication, published when?
2016.
2016, exactly. So publication year, you have 2016 down here. Then the method, let's see what they used as their research method. Sometimes you even see it in the abstract. Let's read the abstract first before we go down. Said the propensity for a grizzly bear to develop conflict behaviors might be a result of social learning behavior between mothers and cubs, genetic inheritance, or both learning and inheritance. Using non-invasive genetic sampling. Sure, you see, you start talking of how they did it. We collected grizzly bear hair samples during 2011-2014 across southwestern Alberta, Canada. We targeted private agricultural lands for hair samples at grizzly bear incident site, defining blah, 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 explanation. They even came and said we evaluated 96 mother offspring, story. We compared the frequency of the problem, this, that, this is it. All of these things is an explanation of their methods. Remember what I explained about methods, right? How did they do it? Do we understand that part?
Yes.
Juliet?
Yes.
This is too lengthy.
Yes.
Juliet, did you understand that?
Yes, ma. I think based on what you read in the abstract, if I'm not mistaken, is more like a literature, more like a methodology, like, I don't know.
Okay, so they did an original research. They did not just sit down and carry papers to be looking at. They actually went to the field and did a paper. So that's a primary research. So sometimes you can just, before you explain, you can just write here. Primary research. Okay, before you explain what it is. This first one was a secondary research. Let me explain it briefly. A primary research is the one the person went to the field. I don't know if you know, most times science students, they always do primary research. They'll say, go to the field, collect this, collect that, test it. That's primary research. Secondary research is, don't go to any field, just stay in your house or go to the library, read books, gather the people's views, write about it. I don't know if that makes it clearer. So for this first paper now, the person did not do any field work. There was no original research. There was no original primary data collection. The person just sat down, took papers, read them, analyzed them, reviewed them, and put up a work, right? Based on what they said. Now, for this second one, they went into primary research. See, they said they collected grizzly bear hair samples. They're even very bold. They went to collect hair samples from bears, right? So they actually went to the field, they collected data, they'll show you how they collected it, how they targeted, where they went to, and how they analyzed it. They even said for analysis, they said we genotype 230 unique pairs, and all of that. Then we now use program colony to assign percentage. That's for the analysis. I don't know if it's making any clearer to you now. I know it's not all easy to take in once, especially for someone who's not been into research, but I'm sure most with time you'll be adjusting. But for now, I don't know if my explanation is helping.
Yes, ma, it's helping for
So
me.
it's clearer a bit, right?
Yes, ma, it's clearer a bit.
Okay, just a bit.
So,
Okay,
but why did you copy this particular part of the abstract
because it
and
explains
paste?
the full method. It explains everything about the method. And the reason I put all of them is so that I wouldn't want to be summarizing. But then it's important so that in case you're trying to compare it with another article that did something similar, you can see where there was difference or something like that easily. So this
Okay, so
yes, please go on.
okay, sorry. So for the methodology, you said in case if you are comparing two articles, so can you write two different articles in one methodology if you are writing a literature review based on what you just explained now?
Okay, so if you're writing a literature review and you're considering their methodologies only, you can even examine 20 papers to see how they did their methods. So if you're looking at methods, you only get to see as much papers as you want. All you need to do is to look into their methods only.
Yeah, and I'm saying I want to write all the papers you review for the methodology. You're going to write each of them under this methodology. This place you wrote primary research.
No, you just the way we did for this first one, you write the papers differently and write their own method. So when you now finish writing all, when you're not ready to sit down and analyze what you've gathered, you will now know the one that you use to compare and all of that.
Okay.
So you just keep doing this. This is what you do for all the papers you touch.
Okay.
So the important thing is not to write too much, because you might be doing like 10, 15, 20 papers, 30 papers. So you can't be typing long things. So just take the key things and just that stand out, that summarizes it. Just summarize it and go away. So that when maybe if you're looking for the idea and you want to write it, you've seen the name, you can just go back and search it on Google Scholar. The paper will come out. This is better because if you don't write it down and you see an idea you like, you say, oh, I'll come back to it. When you want to come back to it, you will not know the name of the paper again. And you don't know which paper has what idea. But from here, you can see everything. Right?
Yes, ma'am. I understand now.
Okay, so then summary. So for the summary, you can just, for summary, let me say, you just say, let me explain this summary outline. So summary, what you do in summary is what the paper wants to achieve. I'm not going to write it. When you go through, you find out what the paper wants to achieve. These are things you should be asking yourself. What did the paper finally conclude, finally achieve, and how? So it will be a summary. Sometimes summary will be, it's going to cover this, what the objective is. So I'm going to teach us objectives later, not today. What is an objective? What was the objective of the paper? What the paper wanted to, and most times, honestly, in most cases, they even have it as a different table. Before the methods, you have objective. You see, so they have objective. What does it want to achieve? It's always important to, I feel like you create a table for that. But I just, right? So you have objective here, explaining what the paper seeks to achieve. So this summary will be like what the paper wants to achieve, how the paper did it, and what the paper achieved. So sometimes, if you don't even want to have conclusion, it's okay. You can just have your author, your year of publication, the objectives, the method, and the summary, and the key idea, the main idea, which is what you want to use to argue. You understand? Does that make sense, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for what the paper, so if you look again at the result, it says our result supports. Now remember, this abstract is giving you everything you need. Once you have a good abstract, you've gotten everything. So if you read only the abstract, you can fill your tables out. It says our results support the social learning hypothesis, but not genetic inheritance hypothesis. So you see there are two hypotheses that were tested. Offspring of problem mothers are more likely to be involved in conflict behaviors, while offspring from non-problem mothers are not likely to be involved in incidents or human-bear conflict themselves. There was no evidence that offsprings are more likely to be involved in conflict behavior if their fathers had been problem bears. So these are explanation of the things they found, right? Then similarly, 28.6% of offspring were identified as problem bears independent of their father's conflict status. All of these explain their findings. So again, your table should just capture the main things you want to see. Capture the main things you want to see. So authors, year of publication, objective, objectives. Let me just add another column here. Objectives of the paper, this is what the paper wants to achieve. Then the method, the finding, even in fact, the summary, you can get it from all of these. So it might not be too necessary to have summary if you have everything intact. So the main things you should watch out for. If you're doing your own, you don't need to fill it too much. Method, findings. Main idea is still be in your findings. So, but basically, once you have this, you're good to go. You're good to go. So let me just explain what this means so that in case you're taking a screenshot or something, you can have it covered. Who wrote it? These are questions you're asking. In what year? What were they trying to find out or achieve? What were they trying to find out? How did they go about the research? What did they find? Then just have what is their conclusion? What is the main idea? This summary might not be necessary, but then whatever you have to, because why I say so is if you have all of this figured out, this one, you already have it in all this. You will understand. So you can even take away this, right? Are we together?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is very important. Once you have all of these, you can do it. See this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this conclusion, and this one, they're important. You can do it with summary. But what works for you, depending on what you're looking for. But once you have all of these, I'm sure you're going to find it easy. So I'm going to do one more thing and then we'll go. So I won't be doing it myself. I want us to do it. So I'm just going to pick, we'll do one together because of time. So we'll do just one together and then we can go. Trying to find the paper that we've not touched. Okay, so let me go for another page. Okay, modeling child-nature interaction. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so who are the authors? Please, you can unmute. Let's do this together quickly so we can all go get some rest.
Peter H. Khan Jr.
and kids.
Yeah, and kids.
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't copy here. If I do something like this. So, but then I'm going to allow, just, you know what to do. I'm trying to point out, okay? So I'm not going to write, okay? So these are then, what year was it published?
2018.
Yes, 2018, accurate. So the next thing we are looking for, we found the authors, the year, the objective. What were they looking out to find? Where would you find that?
Abstract.
Exactly. So let's look at the abstracts. This is the abstract. It said this article provides a proof of concept for an approach to modeling child-nature interaction based on the idea of interaction patterns, which are characterizations of essential features of interaction between humans and nature, specified abstractly enough so that countless different instantiations of each one can occur in more domestic or wild forms, giving different types of nature, people, and purpose. Before I go further, please don't ever have your sentence this long. It's not good. This sentence is quite long, so we can avoid long sentences like that. But then, if you look here, please, who can tell me what the objective is? Please, you can unmute and tell me what the objective is. Can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Please, who can just tell me what the objective, what they are trying to do, or what they are,
Um, The article is trying to provide a proof of concepts for an approach to like modeling child-nature interaction.
Okay.
I think but this sentence is too long, so
It's
it's hard
really,
to pinpoint.
yes. Yes. Okay. Do we agree with her? Any other ideas? Gloria, Juliet, Piamaka, please, I want to hear our thoughts. This is so we can run this through and go. So you're right. That's the objective, right? That's the objective. So the method, can you look through if you see a method?
I think there is a method. I don't know. I'm seeing with sorry.
Is it those
as in
numbers?
at the same time it's kind of stressful. Am I seeing
The model
okay, observational data collected through a time sampling methodology at the nature preschool. So I think that suggests, I don't know, guys.
So, but yes, they have this method. So you're right, Chamaka. Well done. Well done to you all. You've done well. Okay, so now we've gotten the name of the authors, the year of publication, the objective, the method. What did they find? It's a lot, right? Juliet,
Yes.
please, can you hear me? I know we
Yes.
learn it's not something we all learn at Tico, but with practice, the only thing is practice. If you go and keep doing it, you'll be seeing some of these things. So it's practice. So for our take home, you're going to go to Google Scholar, the way I showed you. You're going to look for 5 papers on what you wrote today, the answers you gave me today on social media and impact on children. The specific one you gave me, you don't need to change it. Do a literature review on that and then come out with a matrix table of at least 5 sources. I'd like them to be in the last 10 years. I hope that's okay.
Sorry, you said
Sorry, come again.
Okay, so I said for our task, all of us have submitted an assignment for today that showed our TIL paragraphs, right? Now, for that paragraph, whatever you wrote there, do a literature review to support it. At the end of the day, go to Google Scholar, find the papers. I want to be sure of how you found the papers. Tell me when you find the papers, when you're searching, tell me what exactly you wrote, you filled out. Why I'm doing so is so I can check it and see that's accurate. How many papers did you have? Like, remember where I showed us said the number of papers that we had? How many people remember that? Yeah, it said 17,800 results. So once you put in this field, you get this number of papers. I want to know how many papers you got, how you filtered them by age or whatever, and then just tell me. Then you select the 5 that you want to use. You check them, then you do the matrix table. Right? Is it clear?
So we're not going to like do any, like we're not going to write a full like a paper or like a
No,
review, but just the matrix.
you're not writing. Just give me these details from the 5
Okay,
papers you choose. But it must be on
okay.
what you wrote for me earlier. Don't change it. So you go to the Google Scholar. Remember, the first thing first is what did you search for? You write it out, what you search for. How many papers came out? How did you reduce it to look for what you wanted? And then you end up with this. You end up with this. Okay?